بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Respected elders, dear brothers and sisters, my young friends, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. When a person starts practicing the deen, one thing becomes apparent. Now this could be a person who is new to Islam, perhaps a convert. It could be a child who is entering their teen years, entering into adolescence, or it could be an adult who is starting to become more observant. The one thing that becomes apparent is that life as a practicing Muslim, a Muslim who tries to adhere to and respect the guidance that Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam have sent. If a person tries to do that, life can sometimes seem a bit difficult. It can sometimes seem a bit difficult because there are a number of restrictions. So for example, what goes inside your body. So what you eat, what you drink, and not just what you consume physically, but also what you consume and what you take in with your eyes, what you see, the things that you listen to and you consume with your ears. Right? There's restrictions on those, what we can do, what we cannot do. There are guidelines and restrictions with regards to dress, right? For both, for women, but also for men as well. What we say, how we use our tongue, how we use our mouth, the types of words that we express and that we say with our mouths, our manners, our behavior, how we deal with situations, how we deal with people, ethics, right? Along with obligations, right? So having to offer salah 5 times a day, and especially if you're traveling, there's some dispensations, but still, right? It can be challenging sometimes, or during school or during work. And our obligations with regard to fasting. Fasting can be long in the summertime, right? Going for Hajj can be expensive, it can be difficult. And, giving charity, giving zakat, all of these obligations. Plus, on top of that, all the recommendations, right? The things that you're supposed to do, even though you may not have to do them, but you should do, right? So there's a lot of do's and don'ts. There's a lot of restrictions and guidelines that Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam have given to us. And because we are in an environment where these things are not publicly practiced, right? It can seem difficult to us, especially difficult to us, right? Because we tend to compare sometimes. Right? I was once giving a presentation in a church, and there was a very nice lady afterwards who raised her hand, and she said that all of these things that you have talked about, right? It's very educational, and I find it to be very beneficial, but it's a lot. It's a lot to do. Whereas in my faith, all I have to do is worry about, it's all about having a good heart, and that's it. You don't have to worry about anything else, right? But there's a lot of do's and don'ts, and there's a lot of things that you have to pay attention to, right? But that is a strength. That is a strength, and the beauty of our deen, it is not a weakness. That is a strength because it means that Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam have not left us alone, have not left us without guidance, but rather have given us guidance to show us the best path and the best way of doing things in every single aspect of our life. So there should be no situation where a believer is completely lost and does not know what to do, because there's always some guidance that can be applicable that Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam have sent. Now it's very important to understand and to have the right underlying philosophy of life. It's very important to understand. So sometimes you say, okay, why do I have to dress this way? Children will say, okay, why do I have to do this? Why can't we eat this? And it's hard. I was recently on a trip, and if there's no halal food readily available, you walk into a restaurant and you think something might be halal, but you find out a little bit, you get some details, and then you find out that, oh no, it's being cooked in the same pan, for example, where they're cooking pork or bacon, whatever it is, right? So it can be challenging, especially if for younger people who may not understand. All of these things can get a little bit frustrating sometimes. So that's why it's important to understand the underlying philosophy behind all of this. And that is that our purpose is to live in this temporary life for the real life, which is the afterlife, for the hereafter. This is why we are here. to live through this temporarily, so to live this through this temporary life, so that we can have the real life, a good life, which is the real life of the hereafter. So there's a choice to make. You suppress your own desires, you suppress what you feel like doing to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or you suppress the commands of Allah to satisfy your own desires. There's a simple choice to be made. Right? It's one of the two. One of the two. So either you suppress your own desires for the pleasure of Allah, or you suppress the commands of Allah for your own pleasure. Okay? Now, essentially it comes down to is who do you follow and worship? Do you follow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and worship Allah, or do you follow your own desires? If you suppress your own desires, which is for your own good, right? You please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you get real Jannah, inshallah. Okay? You go through the hardship now, inshallah you get ease in the future, in the hereafter. Or you follow your desires now, you try to build your own Jannah now, and you lose out in the hereafter. And you can't have both. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, مَنْ كَانَ يُرِيدُ حَرْثَ الْآخِرَةِ نَزِدْ لَهُ فِي حَرْثِهِ, that whoever desires the harvest of the hereafter, we increase for him in his harvest. وَمَنْ كَانَ يُرِيدُ حَرْثَ الدُّنْيَا نُؤْتِهِ مِنْهَا, and whoever desires the harvest of this world, we give him thereof. Okay, you pick. You want the hereafter, you want the dunya. Okay, but وَمَا لَهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِن نَصِيبٍ, if you choose the harvest desires of this world, then what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? We give him thereof, but there is not for him in the hereafter any share. Okay, so you have to pick between the two. Do you get it now in the temporary world? Do you get Jannah now and then lose out in the hereafter? Or do you go through hardships now and then you get Jannah in the hereafter, inshallah? The Prophet ﷺ has told us that ad-dunya sijnul mu'min wa jannatul kafir, that the world is a prison for the believer. What is it? It is like a prison for the believer. And for the disbeliever, it is paradise. It is like paradise. So if you try to make a Jannah in this world for yourself, it's not going to work for the believer. It's not going to work. There are going to be hardships. There are going to be difficulties. And I really truly gained an appreciation of this hadith when I went to visit prisons, and especially maximum security prisons. To visit prisoners and inmates who are Muslims. Right? And there's restrictions at every single step along the way. Right? Before you even go in, there's a check. You go through metal detectors. You empty out your pockets. You leave your keys and your cell phones and everything behind, your wallet behind. Then you go in through one gate. Then you go through another gate, and the gate behind you closes. Then the next one opens. And then you could barely walk 50, 100 feet before another gate or something coming out. And for prisoners, every single thing is controlled. Right? When they eat, when they wake up, when they go to sleep, when they can go outside and get some fresh air, who they talk to, how they communicate. Every single thing is controlled. Right? So that is the life of a believer in this dunya. So it can seem difficult at times. It can seem difficult, and that's natural. But try to be patient. Try to bear the hardships and the restrictions. And even if you do not follow through properly sometimes, right, aspire to do so. See, what happens sometimes is, if we can't do something, we try to justify it. If you can't do something, if you don't want us to do something, then we try to justify it and say, no, it's okay, so that we feel good about it. No, that's not the right approach. If you're not able to do something, just be honest about it. Say, yes, this is Allah's and His Messenger ﷺ's guidance, but I'm not able to live up to it. I ask Allah for strength. That is the believer's approach. As opposed to saying, oh, I can't do it, so now I'm going to try to make it halal, so that I don't feel guilty, and then, so that I can justify it to myself. That's not the approach of the believer. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept the hardships borne by this ummah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept the efforts of all of those who suppress their desires for the pleasure of their Lord. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant forgiveness and Jannah to all of those who strive and who are sincere in their deeds. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide those who are lost. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen.